Okay, let's move on. If a company needs funds and can't raise common equity due to ratings or accounting constraints, hybrid instruments are a new emerging asset class. CSFB has published a report on the rationale behind the hybrids, and William Porter, head of European credit research and strategy at CSFB, joins us now to tell us more about these instruments. Good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining.
Thank you.
Well, hybrids, an interesting name for something that is totally new. Why is it new and what is a hybrid?
Well, a hybrid security in this context is a bond, emphatically a bond, which is issued by a company where your claim on the company is so weak that the rating agencies, from the perspective of more senior creditors, regard it as being as good as you're having issued equity for rating purposes.
Is there a cap on how much money they could actually raise, being classified a very risky kind of product?
I think there's a limit. There's not a regulatory limit the way there is in the bank, but I think there is a practical limit to the market's tolerance to allow you to effectively to leverage your balance sheet in this way.
What sort of investors would actually be interested in buying into a high-risk product like that?
Generally, traditional fixed income investors, and of course the yield on these securities is significantly greater than that on a more senior obligation of a similar entity. So yield-hungry investors, which frankly these days probably includes most of us, given what's going on in spreads and yields.
Indeed, so it's more a spread instrument. So we look at it more from a bond point of view. So it would sit in a bond portfolio. Now, when it comes to actually the companies themselves, what sort of companies are out there we can expect to issue hybrids?
Well, we ran a filter on this. You need a certain threshold of rating because the rating agencies will consider this, it's a deeply junior security. You have no ultimate right to repayment, coupons can be deferred, you're right at the back of the queue if the company is liquidated. So they will regard it as being less creditworthy, clearly, than the more senior creditors. So the companies need to have, to begin with, let's say a BBB, a mid-triple B rating probably, in order to avoid issuing into the junk category, which I think would be a whole different game. So we filtered for that. We filtered for companies which have in some way restricted access to normal sources of equity capital. A significant state ownership scores highly in that regard. Companies that may have ambitions to protect their existing senior rating, they may be under ratings pressure, and companies that may have M&A ambitions. And finally, we looked at companies that have a significant pension deficit, because I think it's a very interesting business for companies to do as pension obligations through various regulatory authorities and the trustees become more vocal. They're less of a quiescent investor. If you can replace them by issuing a hybrid, taking the money, putting it in the pension fund to keep the trustees happy, and guaranteeing by contract you have a quiescent investor, that's potentially a very interesting thing for a company to do. So we filtered all that out and we came up with a list of a number of European names that we think are potential candidates to issue such securities in the near future.
We put that list up, maybe we can have another look at that. From this list, these are your top picks. When can we expect these to hit the markets, and what sort of return on equity would you actually see for these individual ones?
Well, there is a steady stream. I mean, really, this was all triggered off by Moody's in February, really upping their willingness to consider these things as being supportive of a balance sheet. Then with the delays and one or two things, it was really the summer that early summer these things started to take off. And then it's the first rule of publishing. Every time you're ready to publish a report, someone does something relevant. So we got one from Thomson pretty much as we were publishing. And I think there is likely to be a steady stream. I think companies, particularly because of the cost, there is obviously a cost to all of this, are unlikely to overwhelm the market by just taking this as the best thing since sliced bread. But I think there is likely to be a steady stream of these issues in the future.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank
William
you.
Porter, talking to us from CSFB, where he is head of European credit research and strategy.
In the last couple of minutes, sterling has been climbing, mainly on the back of the minutes, which came out at hour. A couple of minutes ago, they also got some comments coming out from the European Commission relating to Britain and its